Welcome to Benny's Stories, the home of timeless folk tales and powerful life lessons. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and give a quick thumbs up. Now, let's dive straight into today's story. Adaeze woke up before dawn, the rooster barely crowing in her neighborhood. She tied her faded scarf around her head and looked at herself in the cracked mirror by the wall. Her reflection wasn't one of glamour. Her old t-shirt clung to her skin, her palms calloused from years of scrubbing floors. Yet in her eyes was a quiet fire, a yearning she had never confessed to anyone. Every time she looked into that mirror, she imagined herself dressed in something elegant, walking through rooms that were hers, not just one she cleaned. Her life was simple but heavy. Her widowed mother depended on her, and her younger brother's school fees were another weight on her shoulders. There were nights Adaeze barely ate, just so he wouldn't go hungry. Her job as a cleaner at Golden Touch Cleaning Services wasn't much, but it was steady. She worked wherever they sent her, hotels, offices, sometimes even the homes of the rich. That morning, as she packed her warm mop and bucket, her neighbor Ngozi teased, Adaeze, one day you will clean the house of a prince and he will marry you. Adaeze laughed it off, but inside, she wished destiny could surprise her. She had no idea that fate was already setting the stage. That week, Golden Touch Cleaning Services received a special contract. The manager gathered the staff and, with unusual excitement, announced, "We have been hired to prepare the mansion of Chief Chike Obi, the billionaire, for his 50th birthday party." Gasps filled the air. Chike was a name that commanded respect across the country. His parties were the stuff of legend, attended by governors, celebrities, and foreign investors. While the others whispered excitedly, Adaeze remained silent. She knew her place, just a cleaner. Yet her heart pounded at the thought of stepping inside a world she had only seen on TV. She overheard two co-workers gossiping. They say he invited the governor, top Nollywood stars, even foreign business partners. Imagine the gowns. Imagine the food. That night, Adaeze lay awake, picturing crystal chandeliers, ball gowns, and tables filled with delicacies she had never tasted. For once, her dreams weren't about survival. They were about possibility. The whispers of wealth were already seeping into her soul. On the day of preparation, Adaeze's team was taken in a small bus to the Billionaire'S mansion. As soon as the gate swung open, she gasped. The compound was larger than her entire street. Fountain statues glittered under the sun, luxury cars lined the driveway, and workers rushed about in designer uniforms. Inside, the house was like a palace. Marble floors gleamed. Golden drapes hung from tall windows, and chandeliers sparkled like stars. Adaeze felt out of place, her plain uniform contrasting sharply with the dazzling surroundings. Her supervisor barked orders. "You sweep the east wing. You polish the silverware. Adaeze, the ballroom floor. Make it shine like glass." She knelt and began scrubbing, her mop moving rhythmically across the expensive tiles. As she worked, her eyes wandered. She imagined herself in a flowing gown, walking proudly among the guests who would soon fill the room. The fantasy brought a smile to her tired face. She didn't know that destiny was quietly watching her every move. The next morning, Adaeze arrived earlier than the others. She wanted to finish her section before the party chaos began. As she dusted the grand piano in the ballroom, a voice startled her. "You missed a spot." She turned quickly and nearly dropped her rag. Standing before her was Chief Chike himself, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed casually in an expensive shirt. She froze. What was she supposed to say? But instead of scolding, he smiled faintly. "Relax. You're doing well. Most people don't care about the little details." Adaeze stammered a reply, barely able to meet his gaze. She felt invisible most days, but here was the richest man she had ever seen noticing her wake. After he left, her hands trembled as she continued cleaning. Later, she overheard guests discussing the upcoming event. "This party will be the talk of the year. He's unveiling something big." Adaeze didn't know what it was, but she sensed that whatever happened at that party would change her life. That evening, while polishing the stage lights, Adaeze accidentally stumbled into a side hall where Chike stood alone with a sheet of paper in his hand. He was rehearsing a speech, his usually commanding voice low and reflective. "You built an empire from nothing," he muttered, "but what do you give back?" He sighed, clearly battling with his own thoughts. Adaeze quickly tried to retreat, but he noticed her. "Ah, the cleaner again," he said with a half-smile. "Tell me, do you think success means anything if people don't respect the man behind it?" She froze. A billionaire asking her opinion? She swallowed nervously before answering. "So, I think respect comes when people see kindness, not just riches." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then he nodded slowly. "You're wiser than most of the people who will sit in this hall tomorrow." Adaeze left the room, her heart racing. She had just spoken to a billionaire, not as a servant, but as a human being. And in his eyes, she had seen something surprising: recognition. The billionaire's mansion buzzed like a beehive on the evening of the party. Staff rushed around in crisp uniforms. Florists carried baskets of roses. Chefs balanced trays of exotic dishes, and security men barked orders into radios. The guests were already arriving in glittering gowns and tailored suits. For Adaeze, it was like stepping into a dream she didn't belong in. She was ordered to patrol the hallways, ensuring no spills or messes marred the perfection of the night. While walking past the lounge, she spotted a young woman in a shimmering gold gown, clearly a high-class guest, struggling to fix a heel. Adaeze, acting instinctively, bent down and offered help. But in the process, her mop bucket tilted, splashing soapy water onto the edge of the woman's gown. Gasps echoed. The woman's friend snickered cruelly. "Can't you people watch where you're going?" the guest snapped. Laughter followed, and Adaeze felt her cheeks burn. Humiliation wrapped around her like a cloak. She apologized profusely, but the woman brushed her off with disdain. For the rest of the evening, Adaeze kept her head bowed, fighting tears as she worked. What she didn't notice was a pair of eyes watching from across the hall, Chief Chike's. He had seen the mockery, and something about Adaeze's quiet dignity struck him deeply. The party was in full swing. The governor had arrived. Nollywood stars posed for photos, and music from a live band filled the air. But behind the scenes, disaster was brewing. In the massive kitchen, a tray of champagne glasses slipped from a young waiter's trembling hands, shattering across the tile floor. Panic spread. The drinks were meant for the governor's table, and the head chef exploded in fury. "Do you know what this means? You've ruined everything." Adaeze, who had been sent to collect napkins, walked into the chaos. Without hesitation, she took charge. "Clean this quickly. Wipe the shards. Refill the glasses. Use the backup bottles." Her voice carried authority that surprised even her. The staff, desperate and shaken, obeyed. Within minutes, the crisis was contained, and the new tray was sent out just in time. When the chef turned, ready to scold, he paused. "How did you?" He stopped, shaking his head in disbelief. A cleaner had just saved the kitchen from a humiliating disaster. Adaeze returned to her duties silently, but in her heart, something shifted. For the first time, she realized her voice mattered, even in a world that tried to silence her. The night reached its peak when Chike stood to unveil a grand surprise gift to his mother, a diamond necklace worth millions. Gasps filled the ballroom as he presented it in a velvet case. Guests leaned forward, admiring the way the jewels caught the light. But minutes later, chaos erupted. The necklace was gone. The case sat empty on the stage, and whispers spread like wildfire. "Stolen. Who could have?" Security swarmed the room. The tension was suffocating. Then, a guard pointed to Adaeze, who had been cleaning near the stage. You were closest," he barked. Murmurs filled the hall. "A cleaner? Of course." Adaeze froze, her heart pounding. She stammered, I didn't take it." But her words only fueled suspicion. Guests sneered, some even clapped mockingly. "Imagine the nerve of these people," one woman whispered. Adaeze's earlier humiliation returned tenfold, heavier and sharper. Dragged forward under the harsh lights, she felt like the floor would swallow her. All eyes were on her, judging, condemning. It was a nightmare unfolding before her. The accusations grew louder. The head of security demanded, "Confess now, before we call the police." Adaeze's knees trembled. Her life, her family's survival, everything she had fought for, could end in that moment. Then Chief Chike raised a hand. The room fell silent. "Wait," he said firmly. His eyes met Adaeze. searching, as though recalling their earlier conversations. He shook his head. This woman doesn't look like a thief. He ordered the guard to review the surveillance cameras. Minutes felt like hours. Then the truth appeared on screen. One of the glamorous socialites had slyly slipped a necklace into her place, hoping to frame someone else. Gasps of shock filled the hall. The thief was dragged away, her reputation in ruins. Chaik turned back to Adaeze. You see? Not everyone dressed in silk is innocent, and not everyone in rags is guilty. His words rang like thunder. Applause erupted, not for Chaik, but for Adaeze. In the eyes of strangers, she had gone from humiliation to vindication. Tears stung her eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. The party resumed, but the energy had changed. Everywhere Adaeze went, guests whispered, "That's a girl who was accused and cleared." Some looked at her with pity, others with admiration. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. Near the end of the night, Chaik called her aside. "You handled yourself with grace." "That's rare," he said. Adaeze bowed her head, unsure how to respond. Then came the words that would change everything. "I'd like you to come work in my household, not as a cleaner, for something greater." Her heart stopped. Was she hearing correctly? A billionaire offering her a job in his personal staff? She thought of her mother, her brother, her struggles. This was more than an opportunity. It was a lifeline, perhaps even destiny knocking at her door. As she walked home at dawn, the city streets empty, Adaeze felt different. The mop in her hand no longer seemed like a burden. The girl who had been mocked and falsely accused was about to step into a future she had never dared to imagine. The morning after the Billionaire'S party, Adaeze woke up still unsure if the events of the night had been real. Had Chief Chaik truly asked her to join his household staff? Or had it all been a dream conjured by her exhausted mind? But her doubts disappeared when a sleek black SUV stopped outside her small compound. A sharply dressed man stepped out and introduced himself as Mr. Adaeze, Chief Chaik's personal assistant. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a formal letter. She was being offered employment as a household aide with a salary far beyond what she had ever earned in her life. Her neighbors peeked through windows, whispering as she climbed into the SUV. Some looked envious, others suspicious. How did a cleaner get the attention of a billionaire? One woman muttered. But Adaeze didn't care. For the first time, her steps felt light, her future uncertain but filled with possibility. When she arrived at Chaik's estate, Adaeze explained, "You're not here to scrub floors anymore. Chief wants you clothes. He says he trusts your eyes and judgment." Adaeze's heart raced. This wasn't just a job. It was a transformation. Moving into Chaik's estate felt like stepping into another universe. The mansion was larger than she could comprehend, with rooms she couldn't count, gardens that stretched like royal courtyards, and staff who moved with military precision. She was shown to her quarters, far more luxurious than the one-room apartment she had shared with her mother and brother. For the first time, she slept on a soft bed with clean sheets that smelled of lavender. She couldn't help but cry that night, overwhelmed by gratitude. But luxury came with pressure. At breakfast, she was introduced to the senior staff, the chef, the butler, the head of security, and others. Their eyes lingered on her with a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled resentment. She was the outsider, the girl who had risen too fast. Chief Chaik, however, treated her differently. He asked her opinion about table settings, floral arrangements, even the way his speeches sounded. At first, Adaeze thought he was joking, but slowly she realized he genuinely valued her perspective. Each day, she learned something new: how to interact with high-profile guests, how to organize charity events, even how to manage financial details. The mansion wasn't just a home. It was a school of destiny. Not everyone welcomed Adaeze's sudden rise. Among the household staff, jealousy grew. Some whispered that she must have caught the chief's eye in a way that had nothing to do with work. Others mocked her humble background, calling her the cleaner with big dreams. One person in particular, Ephema, the head maid, saw Adaeze as a threat. Ephema had served the family for years, waiting for her chance at recognition. Watching Adaeze bypass her felt like an insult. She began spreading rumors that Adaeze was manipulative, that she was after Chaik's fortune. But Adaeze also found allies. The chef, grateful for the way she had saved the kitchen during the party, treated her kindly. A young gardener named Cunnel admired her humility and often encouraged her when others tried to pull her down. The tension grew daily. Yet, Adaeze refused to be distracted. She remembered her mother's words, "A tree full of fruit will always attract stones." Instead of lashing back, she poured her energy into proving her worth through hard work and integrity. Weeks passed, and Chike's trust in Adaeze deepened. He began involving her in his philanthropic ventures. At one charity event, Adaeze was tasked with coordinating supplies for orphanages. She worked tirelessly, ensuring nothing was missing. When the day came, everything ran smoothly. Governors and dignitaries were impressed. But what shocked Adaeze most was when Chike introduced her publicly. "This young woman has shown me that true wisdom can come from the most unexpected places." The crowd clapped, and for the first time, Adaeze stood in the spotlight not as a cleaner, not as a suspect, but as someone valued. She felt a warmth in her chest, validation she had long craved. Still, not everyone was pleased. Some elites muttered among themselves, "Why does he trust a girl with no pedigree?" Even some staff back at the mansion whispered that her rise was unnatural. But Chike's words stayed with her. "Do not let their noise distract you. Destiny does not ask for permission." Adaeze began to see herself differently. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was becoming someone of influence. One evening, while organizing files in Chike's study, Adaeze accidentally overheard a hushed conversation. Two of Chike's supposed business partners sat in the adjoining lounge, unaware she was nearby. Their words chilled her. "The chief is too trusting. Tomorrow, when the deal is signed, we'll bleed him dry. He won't even see it coming." Adaeze's hands trembled. They were planning to sabotage him, to ruin his reputation and steal his wealth. Fear surged through her. Should she stay silent, pretend she hadn't heard? After all, who would believe a girl like her over powerful men? But as she looked around the study, at the photographs of Chike's family, at the documents detailing his charity works, she knew she couldn't keep quiet. This man had given her a chance when the world mocked her. She owed him the truth, no matter the cost. That night, Adaeze lay awake, torn between fear and loyalty. Exposing the conspiracy could save Chike, but it could also destroy her. The next morning, Adaeze rose with a pounding heart. The conversation she had overheard about betraying Chief Chike played over and over in her mind. She tried to convince herself it wasn't her place, that she was just an aide, but her conscience wouldn't let her rest. At breakfast, she found Chike in the garden. He looked calm, sipping tea, unaware of the storm brewing against him. Summoning courage, Adaeze leaned closer and whispered, "Chief, forgive me, but I heard something last night. Something about tomorrow's deal. They plan to cheat you." Chike's hand froze on the teacup. For a long moment, he said nothing. His eyes studied her face, as if weighing truth against fear. Then he asked quietly, "Do you know what this means, Adaeze? If you are wrong, you will be destroyed. If you are right, you will have saved everything I have built." Her knees shook, but she lifted her chin. "Then let destiny decide. I'd rather be ruined for telling the truth than safe for keeping silent." It was the boldest thing she had ever said. Chapter 17. The Betrayal Revealed. The following day, Chike's mansion hosted a press conference for the signing of a multi-billion-naira deal. Journalists filled the hall. Cameras flashed, and the two so-called business partners smiled confidently, certain their trap was set. As Chike prepared to sign the documents, Adaeze stood in the corner, praying silently. Suddenly, Chike raised a hand. "Before we proceed, there is something to be addressed," he announced. The room grew tense. He gestured, and security guard wheeled a projector screen. On it played hidden surveillance footage, captured after Adaeze's warning, showing the two partners bragging about how they would ruin him. Gasps filled the hall. The men turned pale, their lies exposed before the entire nation. Chike's voice thundered. "In my house, I have learned not to measure people by their wealth or status, but by their integrity. It was not lawyers or tycoons who warned me. It was a young woman many of you would call ordinary. Today, her truth has saved an empire." The hall erupted in applause. Reporters rushed to capture every moment. Adaeze, once invisible, was now the centerpiece of a story that would shake the nation. By the next morning, Adaeze's name was everywhere. Headlines screamed, "Cleaner exposes Billionaire'S betrayal," and "The girl who saved Chikobi." Social media exploded with admiration. Some called her a hero, others said she was Destiny's chosen. Journalists camped outside the estate, hoping to interview her. She, however, stayed humble, quietly performing her duties. But nothing about her life was ordinary anymore. Invitations flooded in, talk shows, charity boards, even modeling offers. Chief Chike called her into his study. "The world sees you now, Adaeze. You can choose. Stay here with me, or step out and create something of your own. Either way, you are no longer a cleaner. You are a woman of destiny." Her heart swelled. The girl who once scrubbed floors with blistered hands was now sitting across from a billionaire, being told she had the power to choose her future. She knew then her life had changed forever. With recognition came temptation. Many tried to sway her. Politicians who wanted her as a face for their campaigns, business people who wanted to exploit her fame, and even men who saw her as a shortcut to prestige. Adaeze's mother reminded her, "My daughter, don't forget where you came from. Fame without purpose is emptiness." Her younger brother begged her not to leave them behind in her new world of riches. Chief Chike, too, offered her a permanent place by his side, not as a servant, but as an advisor and partner in his philanthropic projects. Adaeze's heart was torn. She admired his vision and kindness, but she also felt a deep pull to carve her own path. In the quiet of her room one night, she wrote down 2 words on a piece of paper: service and freedom. And she realized the answer wasn't a choice between them. It was to combine both. Months later, a grand event was held, not at Chike's mansion, but at a community center built in one of the poorest parts of town. Cameras flashed, crowds cheered, and Adaeze stood on stage, no longer in a cleaner's uniform but in a simple but elegant dress. She announced the launch of her own foundation, the Adaeze Trust, dedicated to providing scholarships for underprivileged children, training programs for domestic workers, and small loans for struggling families. The very people society overlooked were now at the center of her mission. Chief Chike sat in the front row, pride glowing in his eyes. When she finished her speech, he rose and declared, "This is why destiny lifted her from the shadows, to light the path for others." Adaeze smiled, her eyes wet with tears. From a mop and bucket to microphones and cameras, from shame to honor, her journey was complete. The girl who once felt invisible had become a symbol of courage, resilience, and destiny fulfilled.